Welcome to Speak Easy English. Today's story is about loss, hope, kindness, and the power of kindness. On a quiet corner of an old neighborhood, there stood a small shop. For 40 years, that shop had belonged to a kind old man named Mr. Anand. It was a simple little store that sold rice, bread, sugar, tea, and all the small things that families need every day. But more than a shop, it had been a happy place. Mr. Anand knew every customer by name. He knew about their children and their troubles and their joys. He always had a warm smile and a kind word for everyone who walked through his door. For many years, Mr. Anand ran the shop together with his beloved wife. They had no children of their own, but the customers of the neighborhood were like their family. Every evening, the two of them would close the shop, count the small earnings of the day, and sit together happily, grateful for their simple life. But then a great sadness fell upon Mr. Anand. His dear wife became sick, and after a long illness, she passed away. The old man was left all alone. The light went out of his heart. The little shop, which had once been so full of joy, now felt empty and cold. Mr. Anand still opened the shop each day, but the warm smile was gone from his face. He moved slowly, like a man carrying a heavy weight. He spoke very little. The sadness had taken away his spirit. At the very same time, the neighborhood began to change. A large new supermarket opened just down the road. It was big and bright, with bright lights and low prices and shelves full of every kind of thing. One by one, the customers of Mr. Anand's little shop began to go to the big new store instead. They did not mean to be unkind. The new store was simply cheaper and had more choices. But slowly, Mr. Anand's little shop grew empty. Days would pass with almost no customers at all. The old man would sit alone behind his counter, in the silent and empty shop, surrounded by goods that no one came to buy. His earnings dropped lower and lower. Soon he could barely afford to keep the shop open. He could not even buy enough food for himself. But more painful than the empty pockets was the empty heart. The old man felt forgotten and alone. He began to lose all hope. Perhaps it is time to close the shop forever, he thought sadly. Perhaps no one needs an old man and his little store anymore. One cold evening, as Mr. Anand was about to close his nearly empty shop, a small girl came in. She was about 8 years old, thin and poorly dressed, with big and frightened eyes. She walked slowly to the counter and looked up at the old man. "Sir," she said in a small voice, "my mother is very sick at home. We have no food. And we have no money until my mother can work again. Please, sir, could you give us just a little bread and milk? I promise we will pay you back when we can. I promise." Mr. Anand looked at the little girl. He saw her thin face and her hungry eyes. And in that moment, his own great sadness suddenly seemed smaller. Here was someone whose troubles were even greater than his own. The kindness that had been buried under his grief began to stir in his heart. "Do not worry, my child," he said gently. "Of course I will help you." He did not give her just a little bread and milk. He filled a large bag with bread, milk, rice, fruit, and many good things. "Take this to your mother," he said, "and tell her to get well soon." The little girl's eyes grew wide. "But sir, we cannot pay for all this," she whispered. Mr. Anand smiled, and it was the first true smile that had touched his face in a very long time. "You do not need to pay," he said. "This is a gift. A person should never go hungry while I have food on my shelves. Go now, and take care of your mother." The little girl thanked him again and again, tears in her eyes, and ran home with the heavy bag of food. And as Mr. Anand watched her go, he felt something warm in his chest, a feeling he had not felt since his wife had died. For the first time in a long time, he had felt useful. He had felt that his life still had meaning. After that day, the little girl, whose name was Priya, came back often, not always to buy, but just to talk with the lonely old man. She would tell him about her day, and he would listen and smile. Slowly, her visits became the brightest part of his lonely days. And when her mother recovered and went back to work, the family came faithfully to Mr. Anand's shop to buy their goods, even though the big supermarket was cheaper. "We will never forget your kindness," the mother said. "When we had nothing, you gave us everything. We will be your customers for life." But the story does not end there. The little girl, Priya, could not stop thinking about the kind old man and his empty shop. She told her friends at school about him. She told her neighbors. She told everyone she met. "There is a wonderful old man who helped my family when we were hungry," she would say. "His shop is small, but his heart is the biggest in the whole world. Please go and buy from him." And the people of the neighborhood listened. They remembered the kind old man who had known all their names, who had shared in their joys and their sorrows for 40 years. They felt ashamed that they had forgotten him for the bright lights of the big store. One by one, they began to return to the little shop on the corner. A mother came, and then a father, and then a whole family. They came not only to buy, but to sit and talk with Mr. Anand, the way they used to in the old days. Word spread further. People said, "Let us support the kind old man's shop. A big supermarket has no heart, but his little shop is full of love." Soon, the little shop was busy again. The bell on the door rang all day long. The shelves emptied and had to be filled again. And most wonderful of all, the warmth and the laughter returned. The shop was once more a happy gathering place for the whole neighborhood. But the greatest change of all was in Mr. Anand himself. The light returned to his eyes. The warm smile returned to his face. He was no longer a lonely old man carrying a heavy weight of sadness. He was once again the heart of his community, surrounded by people who loved him. The kindness he had shown to one hungry little girl had, like a single seed, grown into a whole garden of love that now surrounded and supported him. Among those who returned was an old man named Hari Babu, who walked slowly with a cane. He came into the shop one afternoon and grasped Mr. Anand's hands warmly. "Do you remember me, old friend?" he asked. "Of course I do," said Mr. Anand. "How could I forget?" Hari Babu turned to the other customers in the shop and said, in a loud and trembling voice, "Let me tell you all something about this man. 30 years ago, my wife was dying, and I had no money for her medicine. I came to this shop in despair. And this good man gave me everything I needed without asking for a single coin. He even lent me money from his own pocket to pay the doctor. Because of him, my wife lived for 20 more happy years. I have never forgotten it, and I never will. This is the kind of man we almost abandoned for a row of bright lights and cheap prices. Shame on us. Let us never forget him again." The whole shop fell silent. Many of the customers had their own quiet memories of Mr. Anand's kindness over the years, small acts of generosity they had taken for granted. They looked at the gentle old man behind the counter with new eyes, and many of them felt tears rising. They understood now that they had nearly lost something far more precious than a convenient shop. They had nearly lost a good and generous man who had given his whole life to caring for them. That evening, the shop stayed open late, full of warmth and old stories and laughter. People shared memories of Mr. Anand's wife, too, remembering her bright smile and her gentle way with the children. And for the first time since she had passed, Mr. Anand spoke of his beloved wife not with tears of grief, but with a smile of gratitude for the happy years they had shared. The shop, which for so long had felt like a tomb of his sorrow, was slowly becoming a home of joy once more. As the weeks went by, the little shop became more than just a store again. It became the beating heart of the whole neighborhood, exactly as it had been in the old days. Mr. Anand began a quiet new custom that touched everyone. On a small shelf near the door, he kept a basket of bread and food, and anyone who was hungry and could not pay was welcome to take what they needed, no questions asked. "I once forgot how to be kind," he would say, when my own sorrow was too heavy. "I will never forget again." Soon the neighbors began adding their own food to the basket, so that it was always full. The kindness of one old man had spread until the whole street was caring for its poorest people together. A wealthy man who owned shops across the city heard about the little store and came to see it for himself. He watched the people coming and going, sharing food and stories and laughter, and he shook his head in wonder. "I have 100 shops that make me rich," he said, "but not one of them has what this little shop has." "How do you do it, old man?" Mr. Anand smiled. "I do not sell only rice and bread here," he answered. "I sell kindness. And the strange thing about kindness is this: the more of it you give away, the more of it you have." The wealthy man went away thoughtful. And it was said that he began to run his own shops with a kinder hand from that day on. One evening, as the shop was full of happy chatter, Priya, now a little older, sat beside Mr. Anand. "Grandfather Anand," she said, for that is what she now called him. "Do you remember the day I came in asking for bread? You were so sad and alone then. And now look, the shop is full and happy again. You saved my family that day. But I think, somehow, we saved you too." Mr. Anand put his arm around the little girl, and his eyes shone with happy tears. "You are right, my dear child," he said softly. "On the day you walked in, I had lost all hope. I was ready to give up. I thought my life was over. But when I helped you, I remembered who I was. Kindness, you see, is a strange and beautiful thing. When we are at our lowest, and we choose to lift up another person, we somehow lift ourselves up too. I gave you a bag of food. But you gave me back my life." And so the little shop on the corner stayed open for many more happy years. And the people of the neighborhood never forgot the lesson they had learned. They learned that the cheapest price is not always the greatest value, and that a community is held together not by money, but by kindness and love. And whenever Mr. Anand told his story to others, he would always end it the same way. When sadness fills your heart and you feel that all hope is lost, do not turn inward and give up. Instead, look around for someone you can help. For kindness is like a candle. When you use your own small flame to light another candle in the darkness, you do not lose your light. You only make the whole room brighter. The kindness you give to others in their darkest hour has a way of finding its way back to you, just when you need it most. And that is the story of the old man and the empty shop. A story that reminds us that a single act of kindness can change 2 lives at once, and that even when all hope seems lost, the warmth we offer to others can rekindle the light within our own hearts.